So let's analyze all the matchings, subdividing them into three categories. Let's assume we need to translate a text of 10,000 words, and the rate to be paid is 10 cents for every no-match word. So all the words that do not belong to any sort of match, either full match, fuzzy match, repetitions, or internal fuzzy, those words will be paid 10 cents. But if the words of my document, by comparison with the translation memory or with all the sentences of the document itself, I get a certain amount of fuzzy match word, those words will be paid 5 cents. So they will be paid with a 50% reduction. And the third case is when the words of my document, by comparison with the translation memory and the document itself, we get full match or repetition. It means that I will not have to translate those words. So those words will not be paid the full rate, not even with a reduction of 50%, but with a much stronger reduction of 90%. So here in our example, we will get just 1 cent for those words belonging to the full match or repetition category. This is just an example. It's not a rule. We know that 10 cents, this is just an easy way to make calculations. When I'm talking about words, I don't mean words that are scattered in my document here and there. I mean words that belong to sentences. So because actually it is the sentence that can be regarded as full match or fuzzy match or repetition or internal fuzzy. And all the words contained in that match will belong to that category. So sometimes we have words with articles, prepositions, and because they belong to a full match, those articles and prepositions are considered to be full match because they belong to a full match sentence. So we need to understand this idea, this concept, that it's true that actually we call the words full and fuzzy match or repetition or internal fuzzy. But actually, I mean those words that are included in the sentence that is considered that way. Because if a sentence is considered no match, then all the words included in that sentence will be considered no match. So after analyzing my document, I will get a certain amount of sentences which will produce a certain amount of words that are full matches. And I will have a certain amount of sentences that are fuzzy matches, and those sentences will produce a certain amount of words. So remember that full match and fuzzy match, repetitions and internal fuzzy are not referred to single words scattered here and there around the document. I hope this is clear. Let's move on. Now I'm going to analyze the three categories of matchings, because now we have seen that we have two types of matchings coming from the translation memory and from the document, but those matchings which are full match, repetitions, fuzzy match, and internal fuzzy can be analyzed and can be explained in a different way just to show you exactly how things are working. So the matching can come from the TM in the form of full and fuzzy match, or from the document itself in the form of repetition or internal fuzzy. And here we have this rectangle related to the words coming from a given TM. and this other rectangle related to the words coming from the document. Coming from the TM, we might have full matches. And let's assume that we have 2,000 words that are considered to be full match because they belong to a certain amount of sentences that are considered full match. But we might also receive some repetitions. So we might also receive some words that are considered repetitions because they come from the document itself, and the sentence are considered repetitions, and all the words included in those sentences are considered to be repetitions as well. So let's assume that the total is 1,000 more words. So we have 2,000 words full match and 1,000 word repetition. Those two matchings are considered to be in the same category because I don't have to translate full matches at all because they are already identical, and I don't have to translate repetitions because they are already identical. So here I have an amount of words, 2,000 plus 1,000 equal 3,000 words, that will not be touched. Even if my original document, you remember, contained 10,000 words, I will have 3,000 words that will not be touched because they might come from the translation memory or from the document that contains sentences that repeat. And here we have the explanation. This category is, I will call it category 1, and it contains full matches and repetitions. So those matchings belong to this category, and they mean that these sentences will not need to be translated in the project. The total amount of words contained in these sentences will be paid only 10% of the agreed full rate. So here we have the rate reduction, 90% reduction of the full rate. In fact, 3,000 words, this is the total amount, will only be paid 1 cent by the agency. This reasoning is related to the agency. So when I'm paid by the agency, because the agency will carry out the analysis report, and the agency will tell me that even if the document contains 10,000 words, those words are not to be translated from scratch as no match. But 3,000, for example, of them are considered full matches or repetitions, and they will be paid 1 cent. Okay, so now we move on and we go to the second category. So from the translation memory, not only we can get full matches, but we can also get fuzzy matches. And let's say that we get some sentences considered fuzzy match, and the total amount of those words included in those sentences is 1,000 words. But we also have internal fuzzy. So that means sentences that are repeated in a similar way in the document itself. And let's assume that we have another amount of words, 1,000 words, that are considered to be internal fuzzy. So those two matching belong to the same category. In fact, we have category 2, a fuzzy match and internal fuzzy belong to this category, which means that these sentences will have to be revised or partially retranslated. Not from scratch. I just need to rewrite something, I need to modify, I need to comply the fuzzy match that I have received with the new translation that I'm about to translate. So the total amount of words contained in these sentences will be paid 50% of the agreed full rate. So here the reduction will be 50%. And because we have 1,000 fuzzy match words and 1,000 internal fuzzy words, the total amount will be 2,000 words, and those will be paid just 5 cents. And then we come to the third category. The third category actually is referring to all the remaining words, because all the remaining words, those that are not full matches, fuzzy matches, repetitions, or internal fuzzy, they are considered no-match words. So to this category belong the so-called no-match sentences. When I say no-match sentence, then of course I also have no-match words. No-match words will be the total of all the words included in the no-match sentences. So those are sentences that have not found any matching neither in the TM nor in the document itself. This means that these sentences will all have to be translated from scratch, and the total amount of words contained in these sentences will be paid 100% of the agreed rate, which in our case is 10 cents. So the total words left, considered no match, are 5,000, and those 5,000 words will be paid 10 cents each. So here I have 5,000 plus 2,000 plus 3,000, total 10,000 words. But those 10,000 words will not be paid 10 cents each, because 3,000 of them will be paid 1 cent, and that makes $30 or 30 euros. 2,000 words paid 5 cents, it means $100 or 100 euro. 5,000 words paid 10 cents each, it means $500 or 500 euros. So the total would be 630 euros or $630. So I hope this is clear for you, and this is the end of the presentation, and I will go through with the next lesson related to the creation of a project. Thank you for watching. Bye.